Okay, so week 4, this is equanimity. The first couple of weeks we've looked at attachment to people, objects, outcomes, reputation, and so now we're going to start looking at some solutions, how we can mitigate or reduce or chip away at that attachment. I've said all that. And the last week we did look at how we become attached to the how of it. We did the what, then the how. How we become attached to our projections, something that our mind creates, which doesn't correspond to anything real. So we talked about that there was really nothing to be attached to. It's our projections. It was never there to begin with. We just add stuff on top of it. And this touches on the interesting and fascinating topic of emptiness, which is too big for us to do, and it's a central topic in Buddhism, that the way we look at things and think things exist don't really exist that way. And one of the Monday night teachers, Ross Moore, often teaches on emptiness, and if he ever teaches, he's moved to Kyneton now, so I don't know whether he'll come and do Monday nights anymore, but if you ever get a chance to listen to him talk on emptiness, he's very, very good. He might teach up in Bendigo, but anyway, keep an eye out. Let's see. Okay, but this week is about looking at equanimity as a strategy to reduce attachment. But before we get into that, we'll do a meditation. So it's a gratitude and joy meditation, and I found this on the Smiling Mind app that I spoke about last week. And it does have a connection to attachment. When we're grateful for what we have, there is a contentment, so there's not that much of a craving for something else and then being attached to that. So a gratitude meditation is simply a practice on reflecting on the things in our lives that we're grateful for. Sometimes we forget about that. Well, I do anyway. I'm complaining about this, that and the other, and I think, oh gosh, really that's unnecessary. I have so many wonderful things in my life that I should be happy about, and it's good sometimes to think about that because I think we do forget. About a feeling of appreciation, whether it's for a loving family member or a friend, a roof over your head, a sunny day, or the pleasure of a good cup of coffee, the big things and the little things. Okay, so we'll begin. So just as usual, just adjust your posture, sit up straight, that's the important thing. And the eyes half closed or fully closed, whatever you're comfortable with. So before we start it, just take a few long, slow breaths, but quietly. Just take 2 or 3. And then one more deep, long breath, hold, then exhale. Okay, I find that holding bit just sort of does something extra. Okay, so the gratitude and joy meditation. So start by checking in with yourself. How are you feeling? And what are you thinking? Just notice, don't judge. Were you reliving the past, lost in judging, analysing, perhaps thinking about what you did today or what you have to do? Just remember that there is nothing else to do in this moment but breathe. So bring your attention to the heart or feel your centre and think of the things in your life that bring you joy. And can you think of someone or something in your life that you feel grateful for? It might be the smallest of things or the greatest of things. Who or what are you grateful for in this moment, and try to feel that. Feel that warmth of gratitude. Concentrate on that feeling of gratitude. So by focusing on the feeling, you can expand that little bubble of joy that you're experiencing, gained from gratitude. So we're going to send some of this warmth and joy out into the world, but first starting with yourself. So in your mind, say to yourself, may I be happy, may I be safe, may I be well. Or just send yourself the good vibe, the good feeling. So fill yourself up with that joy from the tip of your head to the tips of your toes. Fill yourself up with that warmth and joy and gratitude. Then, from your centre, send out those good vibes, feeling of warmth and joy out into the air around you, and then fully into this room. Then further out into this building. Then into the streets, the city, spreading out to Victoria, and Australia, across the oceans, and wrapping the earth in a beautiful, warm, joyful bubble. And then right out infinitely out everyone in the universe and beyond. Okay, so come back into your body, gently become aware of your body and your breath. The fall and rise of your chest. Sense your hands and feet, maybe giving them a wriggle. And in your own time, just slowly and gently open your eyes. And oftentimes, I'm sure you've heard the Monday night teachers give a dedication of some sort, and that's basically just all the positive energy that you've created to dedicate that to something. People say that that closes it off, or just in your mind it just gives you inspiration for the next meditation, and it oftentimes links in with the motivation at the beginning. So I usually say something to the enlightenment of all beings, including myself, or dedicate the energy to the flourishing of the teachings, or whatever you like. Okay, so this is an easy meditation that can be done almost anywhere, and the smiling mind people think of it as a gratitude pause. So at any time you can just stop and feel gratitude and get that nice, joyful, warm bubble inside yourself, all over. Okay, it's very, very similar to a white light meditation, where you can have white light throughout you too. But it's a little bit more than that with the gratitude. And again, if you've got the wandering thoughts, don't worry about it. Just continue to flex that, bringing the mind back to the breath muscle, imaginary muscle. But I was going to ask about not only how you went with this meditation, but how have you been going with your meditation at home? Has anyone got any thoughts on their meditations at all? And what time of day do you usually do it if you end up meditating? And does it make a difference? Okay, I won't point to anybody and ask. For me it has to be in the morning. I do try in the evening. Some people like to do it before they go to bed to calm their mind down, and then they can have a nice sleep. But I tend to forget, and my mind is drowsy. So in the morning it's a bit better. Okay. And the meditations, I was going to ask which meditations at home have you been doing, but there's a variety you can choose from. You're probably very familiar with the breathing meditations that are often done on a Monday night, or from an app. There are a lot of good apps. I've mentioned the Calm app, the Smiling Mind app, the Headspace app, the 3-Minute Mindfulness app, where you just tap and you have a guided meditation. There's also the meditations, obviously, you do on a Monday night, and they are also in the Monday night books, Meditation for Modern Minds. There's a list of the meditations there as well. And Wednesday mornings, there's guided meditations here as well. Or you might find your own thing, your own guided. Tara Brack or other people have their own guided meditations, Mingyur Rinpoche, so there's a lot online as well. Sometimes it's nice to have a guided meditation and have someone leading you to do it. But then at other times, as I said, if you're familiar with the breathing meditation or a white light meditation, you can do that too. Yeah. I don't think so, no. No, I think that should be fine, as long as it doesn't interfere with your concentration and your focus. So if you start thinking about, oh, what's this tune, then that would defeat the purpose. You wouldn't want AC/DC playing, I don't think, but something gentle.
Oh, no. It's kind of like a guided meditation. I got this from the Brighton East. And when I feel really upset, or I should meditate not just because I'm upset, but when I put it on and it talks, you have that soft music, it really clears.
It could be the vibrations too. I mean, when you say mantras like Om, and you can connect with the vibrations, that's really great as well. Very hard to be angry when you're in the middle of an Om. Yes. So.
I use the Calm app.
Yep.
I do it at night time, and I try to also do it in the morning when I can.
Yeah.
But if I do it at night time, I fall asleep.
During the meditation? Oh, that's... You could raise your head a little higher, Sometimes if the head, they do say to put the head down just a little, but if you put it up, it might make you a little bit more alert. Absolutely. And it's a nice thing to have in your head before you go to sleep. Yeah. And if it's the last thing you think about before you fall off to sleep, then that's a good thing rather than being angry at someone at work during the day.
It's just the thought of just waking up and doing coffee and get the day off just to start doing meditation. I haven't been able to.
I don't do it.
It's like my coffee. I wake up and coffee.
Well, that's fine. I remember hearing a couple of women talk about. I was on a retreat and they were talking about they both meditate in the morning, but one does it as soon as she gets up because she's got that nice sort of state. I don't think it's an alert state, but the other one needs to have a shower before she starts, right? So I don't get up straight away and do it because I don't like mornings much. So I'm like a bear. I've got to like half an hour or something of walking around and doing things, getting a drink of water or whatever. So it takes me about 20 minutes or so. I don't let myself have breakfast until I meditate. So that's what I think. I think, look, I won't meditate, I'll have breakfast. I can't have breakfast, I have to meditate. And even if it's 3 minutes, I think I can wait 3 minutes for breakfast. So I do that. And if for some reason I'm in like a huge rush, which is usually in my head, not real at all, not reality, I'll say I can't have any lunch until I meditate. It's better to actually meditate before. You shouldn't meditate when you can, but it's better to meditate before you eat rather than after anyway. But that's just the way I motivate myself to do it. I shouldn't need motivation. I should realise that the meditation's beneficial, but it's just, I don't know what it is. It's hard to sort of get into it. Okay, at least sometimes the house is really clean before I start. I guess I'm one positive. Anything else on meditation? Again, if you've got a nice space to be, I like the space I've set up. I actually did clean it a little bit at the start of the month, and I actually like sitting there. So it's nice. The version of a man cave, I suppose. I go there when I want to be alone. Okay, so equanimity. What is equanimity? In the Buddhist sense, it's seeing things without attachment or aversion. So a fuller definition of equanimity comes from the Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive Glossary of Buddhist Terms. Now that's a really good resource. Lama Yeshe, over there, he's since passed, but a lot of his devotees have formed the Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive and a whole bank of teachings, but also there is a glossary of Buddhist terms which is very helpful as well. Anyway, they say that equanimity is where there is none of the usual labelling of friend, enemy, stranger. For example, think about the people that you come across in your week. Some will be friends, some you will dislike, and others are just strangers. So we've labelled them friend, enemy, and stranger. Well, I'm getting to know some of you, which is lovely. So moving from the stranger box to out of the stranger box. So we're attracted to the friend, we dislike the enemy, and we're indifferent to the stranger. Usually we're indifferent to the stranger. So with equanimity, we're aiming to have an impartial and non-judgmental mind. So a mind of equanimity realises that all beings are equal in that they all want happiness and don't want suffering. So we sort of want to get out of... actually, I'll get to that in a minute. So basically everyone, just like us, wants to be happy and doesn't want to be unhappy. So we're aiming to have an underlying compassion for everyone, so therefore we're less likely to judge and to label them. But of course, you love your friends, and that's fine. You just don't over-exaggerate their good qualities, right? So what we're aiming for is to have a more realistic and even attitude toward everyone. Yeah, okay. No, I'll better stick to my line of logic. I won't get ahead of myself. So a simple definition of equanimity. So it's one of these subjects that there's like about 5 things I want to say all at once, but because it's linear, I've just sort of got to pick one path and go through it. So hopefully when it all comes together, you'll see the connection with attachment and how it can reduce that. So a simple definition of equanimity from the Tricycle Buddhist magazine, it's the capacity not to be caught up with what happens to us. And we've seen that getting caught up is part of what happens when we're attached. So a certain amount of emotion and drama does come into play. For example, when we're attached to someone or something. Oh, I want him so much. I'll be so much happier with him. I want that car so much, but I want it in blue. I remember this Instagram post or on something on YouTube a long time ago of this rich but spoilt young American girl for her 16th birthday got a car, beautiful car, and she's always wanted this type of car. And you've got the blindfold, she comes out, and the father's so proud, and they take the blindfold off, and she goes, and she screams and she goes, "But Daddy, I wanted it in blue!" And she storms off crying, and that's just, you know, that sense of drama, being attached to having the blue car and that drama. I don't know if it was a setup or not, but I believed it. The brother was secretly taping it, as brothers are wont to do. Okay, now, the Berkeley Wellbeing Institute in America says equanimity is seen as a perspective shift. And that's a lot of what we do in Buddhism here. We're shifting our perspective. And equanimity is seen as a perspective shift, a sense of detachment in that we're not controlled by craving or aversion. So we can feel these things, but we don't want to fixate on them. So we can experience the emotions that we have. We're not robots, right? We have emotions. We can experience them, we can feel them, but without letting them dictate our reactions. We want a balanced reaction if something comes our way. But my favourite line on equanimity is the last line from a Buddhist prayer called the 4 Immeasurable Thoughts. They're called immeasurable because they extend to all beings throughout the infinite universe. And it goes like this. I feel like I need a guitar, and it goes something like this. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment and anger, that hold some close and others distant. Okay. Actually, I like this little prayer so much, I'm going to read it out to you. So, the 4 immeasurable thoughts. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. So even your enemy, you want them to have happiness. Maybe there won't be such horrible people if they were happy. Okay. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And may all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness that is free from suffering. And the 4th one, which I just read before, may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment and anger, that hold some close and others distant. Okay, so with equanimity, we don't grasp at the things we want or push aside the things we dislike. So I used to live in India, and there used to be some rich people, and they have a lot of them have servants. I still remember the vision of one woman. She didn't want something. She's just like that, just pushing away something she didn't want, just with that kind of attitude. So you sort of don't really want to do that. Push aside. Okay, so when equanimity is present, we abandon attachment to some and aversion to others. So, okay, we're concentrating on the attachment side of things in this series of Monday night talks, but it's a bonus that we can reduce aversion as well. So equanimity is quite huge, but it does pertain to attachment as well, and that's the bit we are focusing on. And again, when we look at everybody in the world, everybody wants to be happy and no one wants to suffer, but they all behave differently. And according to us, good or bad behaviour. But when we look at it through the eyes of equanimity, we are less judgmental. And I wrote this, it's hard to judge, it's hard not to judge, it's just so hard. And I'm judging things all the time. Oh, I really like that jumper, I really don't like her shoes, I really don't, what's that person doing? I can't stand that politician, what the hell, like on and on and on. So it's hard not to judge, it's just that narrative in the mind. So meditation helps that. If you've got a calmer mind, even breathing meditation, if you've got a calmer mind, you're probably less likely to go like that. Okay. But with equanimity, we want to move the dial away from disliking people, or overly liking them. We want to move away from that. For example, if your friend was behaving like a person you didn't like, you'd probably have more tolerance for their behaviour because you like them. The flip side of that, and this is hard, when you consider the behaviour of a person you don't like, what about thinking of them as someone you love, or if someone you love did what that person you don't like is doing? I remember my partner, his father used to follow Sai Baba. I don't know if you know, an Indian guru in India. He's had a bad reputation of late, for the past few decades. But anyway, he said something really interesting. He said something really interesting that if you think of everybody as me, so if you think of everybody as your guru, and just how you feel about their behaviour then, I suppose you could just sort of change that slightly and think, what if a person I really liked, what if a person was behaving badly, but what if that person was somebody I liked? Sorry, did you get that? Okay, good. Okay, I'm getting confused myself. Okay, Lama Yeshe, maybe he'll be able to clear things up better than me. He gives an example of a parent and their child. So I'm going to be paraphrasing and summarising here because it's like a whole page, so I'm just going to make it a bit shorter. Oh gosh, okay, I will definitely have to make it shorter. So think of a parent with their teenage child. When the child does silly things, this is just an example, it doesn't bother this particular parent, because this parent loves them and understands that the child is under the influence of the mind of a teenager. But if someone else does these silly things, the parent is not so forgiving. Okay? It's just that they love the child and they understand that there's a deluded mind there and it's acting in ignorance. Okay? So we can actually extend that outward. I can't stand some politicians, but I understand they have deluded minds, like we all do. But I can still take action. I can vote, I can go to a rally. So of course, take action if it's needed, but there's no need for the dramatic. You can take action with compassion. I used to volunteer at 3CR Community Radio, and I remember someone saying that anger motivates them to be an activist. And I was just starting to come here, and I asked somebody about that, and they said, well, that'll just make them tired. You get angry, you get tired when you're angry, and you're not clear, you don't think clearly when you're angry at all. And so compassion, if you are concerned about an issue, if you're compassionate about the nurses who are going on strike, or compassion, you show compassion for the cause or for the environment, you have more energy, and also you're more clear-headed. So if you, okay. So back to equanimity. So with a mind of equanimity, we don't react or label because we understand that everyone has a deluded mind and acts out of ignorance. So we act out of compassion rather than judgment. So if you can catch yourself reacting to something, judging or labelling, then if you can stop the labelling for example, good, then there's no qualities to exaggerate, and then attachment won't follow. Remember how we said attachment was the exaggeration of the good qualities of someone and the minimisation of the negative? But if you're not exaggeration of the good qualities of someone, if you're not even labelling them good, then there's nothing to exaggerate. So that's how the equanimity comes into it. So we're getting further into how attachment begins. Oh, okay, I just said this, but I will say it again. I might have, it's good to hear it a second time, but I may have written it better here. So we know attachment exaggerates good qualities, but before we even start exaggerating the good qualities of people or things, we determine whether they are in the good pile or the bad pile. So we've just got to cut it off at the pass. So Lama Zopa says that in all situations, we first discriminate good or bad, and then from that, attachment or aversion arises. Okay. So that's important. So when we experience the good or the pleasant feelings, then some attachment can be formed. When the pleasant feeling is gone, then the craving or the desire to experience it again arises. So that's the danger of labelling good. I mean, the guy that you're obsessed with isn't the same. You've labelled him good, but it's not the same. Your friend doesn't think the same way. You're the one that's doing the labelling. So a mind of equanimity will stop that discrimination. It'll stop that label of good stage, which in turn stops attachment from arising. No, I'll skip that bit. It's interesting, but we haven't got time. I think I'll skip her too. We've got a long meditation, that's why I don't want to do that. Okay, she does say, which is interesting, okay, all we see is the projection of our own story. Attachment makes the person appear gorgeous, and the aversion makes them appear ugly. And on the basis of that, we want them to be happy or we don't want them to be happy. It's based solely on our own needs. This is how it is, this is how we are, she says, and these groups keep changing, from friend one day to enemy the next, and so on. But the delusions stay the same. There is no inherent enemy, friend or stranger. There are just projections of our delusions. Now, she gives an interesting example. She says if she put up 3 people here in front of us, one would be her friend, and one would be her enemy, and one would be a stranger to her. Maybe someone in the audience knows the stranger and it's their friend, but we're talking about for her. What she's labelled her friend, her enemy and a stranger. We won't notice any difference. She says you can't tell. There's no big E engraved on the forehead of my enemy. There's no angel wings on my friend. She goes on to say they have noses and arms and legs and toes and fingers. They all get depressed. They all want to be happy. There's equality there. It's very easy to see, but we're so tunnel-visioned in our views, she says. Okay, so I want to explore this friend, enemy, stranger equalisation a bit deeper now, and we'll do an analytical meditation. So it's called an equanimity meditation, and she gives a bit of an introduction before she starts it, so I'll just read from that. I feel like Joe Biden, check time, when he said pause, and through his teleprompter, and I was just about to say check time. So check time, okay. So but here's yesterday's news now, as we know. Kathleen MacDonald meditation book. Oh, well, okay. I did mean to say that. That orange one that I have shown. Okay. I thought I was doing it again, reading my notes to self. All right. Normally we discriminate, so we either like, dislike, or are indifferent to everyone we meet. This is Kathleen MacDonald says. So these reactions are mostly self-centred, based on whether the person appears agreeable, disagreeable, or uninteresting to me. Right? At the root of this discrimination is our instinctive misunderstanding of the way things exist. Our classification of people into friends, enemies, and strangers is a good example of this. What would we know? Friends, enemies, strangers. There could be friends, enemies, strangers, the same people, but different to other people. We assume that the person we like has inherently good qualities and the person we dislike is inherently bad. We behave as though these qualities are permanent and unchanging, as though we're always going to be close to the person that we've labelled friend or never close to the person we dislike. I know that when I first came here I didn't like someone, but now I like her and we're friends. You know, I was wrong, completely wrong about my little story about it. Okay, so it does change. So I didn't really, it wasn't reality. And that's just it, our stories are not reality. Well, sometimes I guess they accord, but it depends on our motivation and if it's based on our selfish needs, because that skews things in our mind. Okay, and it's hard to imagine that an uninteresting person in the street could ever become a friend. But these assumptions are mistaken, as our own experiences tell us relationships can and do change. People we were once close to are now impossible to communicate with. Ex-husbands, perhaps, and others whom, well, no, he's all right, and others whom we couldn't bear the sight of are now dear friends. So people change, our thoughts and feelings change, situations change. The changes that make us see a friend as an enemy can occur from 1 minute to the next, 1 year to the next, 1 lifetime to the next. The reasons for seeing someone as friend, enemy or stranger are not solid and they're not incontrovertible. But holding on to them as if they were solid prevents us from seeing things as they really are, from cutting through all the crap. It stops us from doing that and makes it difficult for us to deal with when the change occurs. She didn't say cutting through the crap, that was me. Oh, the nun wouldn't say that. Okay, we're going to begin the meditation. Okay, so get into a comfortable posy, but have a straight back. And have a motivation, maybe a strong intention to do this meditation in order to overcome self-centred bias or to become less judgy and to develop the mind of perfect equanimity for the benefit of yourself and others. Because with Buddhism we also want to help other people as well as ourselves. But we need to help ourselves so we can help others. So just take a few, again, long, deep breaths quietly, just in and out, just. Okay, so this equanimity meditation will have us examine our attitudes and feelings towards others so we can recognise where they're mistaken. So hopefully this will lead us to a state of equanimity in which our mind is more balanced and less under the control of attachment, aversion and hatred and indifference. Okay, let's begin. Our world is made up of friends, enemies or people we dislike, and strangers. So imagine in the space in front of you 3 people: someone you like, someone you intensely dislike, and someone you feel indifferent toward. Keep these images of the friend, enemy and stranger throughout the meditation. So first, focus on your friend. Allow your feelings for that person to arise strongly. And ask yourself why you like this person. feel your conviction that this person is definitely and truly a friend. Now shift your attention to a person you dislike, or someone you don't get on with, or even someone you label as enemy. Look carefully at the feelings you have about this person, or just notice them. Finally, shift your attention to a stranger, a person you just barely know, but whom you neither like nor dislike. So these three people in front of you, recognise the labels you've put on each of them: friend, enemy or someone you dislike, a stranger. Consider the person you've labelled friend. You may call them a friend now, but have they always been a friend? They were initially a stranger, and maybe you didn't even like them that much when you first met them. Imagine a situation that would cause that friendship to end. That friend could turn against you, or vote for a different political party, or get sucked into some weird internet conspiracy theory. So feel the resentment and anger and hurt and confusion that you would feel in such a situation. And would you still feel warm, friendly feelings toward that person? They are the friend of the moment or the decade. Relationships have changed in the past and will continue to change. Today's friend can become tomorrow's enemy. Or even forgotten, not kept in touch with, almost like a stranger. Now look at the person that you dislike, or you've labelled person I don't like, or enemy. Have you always disliked them? Did you ever at one time call them a friend? They might even be a friend again. If you were never friends with them, can you imagine a situation in which you could be drawn together and become close? A common interest? Maybe they start to praise you or show you some kindness, or offered to help change a tyre. Is there some situation where there could be a friend? Perhaps you don't know all of their value systems and beliefs, or you've understood something about them that makes you realise that's the way they did behave. So your feelings could be softening or perhaps becoming warmer. Now look at the person you have labelled stranger. Potentially, they could become your friend or someone you dislike. To be your friend, all it takes perhaps is one act of kindness or a smile. Or if they turn into someone you dislike, it could just take a flash of anger from them and then you don't like them. So it doesn't take much for the stranger to be slotted into the friend or enemy category. So go back to visualising the three of them in front of you, the friend, the one you dislike, and the stranger. Think about the fragile impermanence of these relationships. It's only the mistaken belief in the concreteness of these labels of friend, enemy and stranger that holds your mind back from the possibility of change. Recall a relationship you had in the past that has changed. Perhaps it was a friend that you ended up disliking, or vice versa. Or a stranger that became a friend or an enemy. So we can understand that relationships are not permanent, that a loved one can become someone that we don't like, and vice versa, and a stranger can become either a friend or an enemy. Also, no one is a friend, enemy or stranger from their own side independently. They only become so when our mind labels them so. Someone you regard as a friend might be seen by others as their enemy. And there are people who love the person that you regard as an enemy or that you dislike. It's important to recognise that your friend, enemy, and stranger all want happiness just as much as you do. In this respect, we're all equal. So now, imagine unending love and white light coming from your heart and bathing all your friends, all the people you dislike, and all the strangers in the world. This light fills their hearts and their bodies. Imagine them all, friends, enemies, strangers, full of love. Their problems are gone and their bodies become clear and full of light. And your body is full of light and love as well. Try to feel that. Try and feel that there is no real, definite friend, enemy or stranger. Send them all love and compassion. Keep your body full of light and love, and when you're ready, take a deep breath, open your eyes and come back into the room. And you could dedicate, may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment and anger that holds some close and others distant. So what you're aiming for is an inner equilibrium instead of the usual extremes of attachment and aversion. And before we get on to questions, this equanimity also extends to animals. I remember a quote by Lama Zopa that stuck in my head for a long time. We may not think much of an insect's life, but to the insect it is everything. Okay, so questions about friend, enemy, stranger. I mean, enemy is a strong word. That's why I did substitute people that you dislike or intensely dislike, just to have a look at the different categories that we have. Any questions on that? So I can't hear you. Chemistry, yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean, yeah, but a lot of that is, because I remember, again, living in India, I remember the women always saying, same bed, same kitchen, because a lot of it was arranged marriages, and they didn't really care, but we do, although they do too, we do tend to be influenced a lot by movies, and the concept of love, but yeah, we do have a karmic connection with some people, built over from past lifetimes as well, so we do have a connection with them, and that's fine. Like I said before, we can love people, and we do love people, but we don't want to exaggerate their positive qualities or minimise their negative ones. We need to maintain a realistic attitude. It's like if you see a homeless person in the street, we don't know if we love them yet. I mean, we would like to give them compassion. I'm not ready for it, but I do know a woman in Brisbane. She was a mother of a friend of mine. She used to see homeless. She was a social worker, but she used to bring homeless people to their place because she had a big house, and she was very happy to have them there. She clearly wasn't attached to her things because people would say to her, "Aren't you scared that this, that, or the other would be stolen?" She goes, "Nothing's ever been stolen. They just want a place over their head." Now, I'm not ready for that. Unfortunately, I wish I was, but even then, if you see a homeless person on the street, you don't have to say, "Homeless bad." You know, they should go out and get a job or whatever. They should do this. We're judging already. You can even just have a conversation with them. You can say hello. You don't have to give them anything if you don't want to, but you can give them your time. You can give them a smile. You don't need to treat them as if. You don't have to label them, put them in a category and just dismiss them. So that's where the labelling comes in. You want to remove that and have compassion for everybody. And even the worst of the politicians, you want them to be happy. I mean, not obviously successful in the negative things they want to achieve, but you still want them to be happy in good things like loving their children, something like that. You don't wish any harm on their children, things like that. So you can still have compassion for people's deluded minds. So, anything else?
Also commentary. I think sometimes the people we consider like best friends or even family members, you know, for me anyway, I don't speak about it, they might be the person I like, you know, picture as friend, but you know, emotions are complex. You might hate them just about as much as you know, you could almost place them in either category depending on.
Absolutely.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly.
It's my brother. Love him dearly. He would do anything for me. He votes for a different political party, and I can't stand it. So we often have arguments about. We try not to talk about politics as such, but the policies, right? Because politics can be very positive, negative, good, bad. But if you talk about policies and start talking without the script, because a lot of the left and the right have a script that they sort of stick to and don't think about things. So if we get away from that, I say to him, look, I don't want to talk about Liberal or Labor or Greens or whatever. I just want to talk about the issue at hand, and then can break that down. But I see what you mean. They can either go in either category, right?
Yeah, in a sense, yeah. I mean, like an outright person you dislike, like disdainful, they probably, they might just wrong you once and you're like, where I don't know, just like, I don't know, we're all fallible. Like you talk about,
We're all fallible.
we'll forgive people we love, but you still might latch on to the things that, annoy you about.
Absolutely. And that could be something, a trigger for you, but not a trigger for somebody else. So that, for me, when I get triggered, I think, well, I need to have more patience with my mum and remember all the good things she's done for me. And then I sort of soften a little bit. So sometimes you can't be 100% where you want to be, but you can soften something or chip away at something and just get one step towards where you want to be. Does that make sense? Or, yeah. Yeah, thanks for that. It's a really good point. Okay, we're almost out of time, but I just wanted to have a couple of little... Next week we're going to look at letting go, so it's the finale. So I think we need to understand the art of letting go. And we can talk more about this next week. So just a few announcements. I think I spoke last week about the evening meal service before the teachings, Monday to Wednesday, 5:30 to 8 p.m. They also have an Instagram account, Cafe Bliss 21, I think it is. But you don't have to go to the teachings, you can just come for dinner. But then you could go to the teachings if you wanted to. If you wanted to dip into the Tuesday, Wednesday with the Geshis, there is a translator, but it might be very interesting to do that. But then again, no pressure, you just go to just have dinner and go. So it's the crew from Cafe Bliss. I don't know if you've been to the cafe here that's associated with Tara Institute. So their yummy food is available in the evening now. At lunchtime prices. Again, a reminder, 11 o'clock on a Wednesday in the morning, guided meditations. They go through a series of 10. You don't have to come from the start. They're just different types of meditations, which is very interesting. And to remind you that Tara Institute has a Facebook account and an Instagram account, and you can keep abreast of the current events there, obviously the newsletter as well, and the website, and you can see what events are on. Now, a little bit of homework with the meditation. I hope you guys are meditating or trying to meditate. I think trying to set the same time every day will help. And even if it's a minute, I think Geshe Doga just says that the building up the habit is important. And I think I said there's 21 days or 25 days to build up a habit, so I'm hoping that I will build up this habit. And even if I'm in a rush or if I'm travelling, I know it's very difficult because I want to go out and see, Paris or wherever I am, or Singapore or whatever. I want to get outside. I don't want to sit for half an hour and meditate, although I should. But I would just sit there and go and just take 3 breaths, and then I can go now. But it's just that habit. So when I go home, I've still got that habit. That's the key, having that habit. Even if you don't sit down for a 5-minute meditation, do your 3 breaths and out the door, or whatever it is, then your email or whatever you need to do. So it's building up that habit. Okay, so add the motivation before you start to meditate. It can be really simple. I mean, why are you starting to meditate? Is your motivation to calm the mind, to think clearer, to have some inner peace, inner joy, be in a better space in your head to help yourself and other people? And if you're doing an analytic meditation, then maybe your motivation is to understand a particular topic better, like a deep dive. Again, to help yourself and to help others. Okay, I think that's it. Please stay and have a chat in the dining room over a cup of tea. And I saw there's a yummy cake in there. It looks yummy. Thank you for your attention. Have a good week and hope to see you next week. Thank you. Oh, and any feedback you've got, come and tell me, please. Please tell me.